The Toyota Corolla Cross has quickly become a very popular vehicle for Toyota. It is sold almost everywhere in the world, either as a hybrid, 2-liter or in 1.8-liter trim levels. There are tons of reviews that deal with how it drives and the number of cup holders, but just how safe is it? In the USA, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety rated it as a safety pick, and it got 5 stars from the European New Car Assessment Program, Euro NCAP. But let's take a closer look at how safe the 2021 Corolla Cross is as supplied to third world countries, particularly Africa. The level of trim obviously affects the level of safety. For example, baseline models might only have 2 airbags, but the top-of-the-range model might have 8 airbags and a host of other passive and active safety features. Global NCAP, under its new car assessment program for cars from Africa, noted in tests of vehicles that the body shells of the vehicles supplied to Africa were not as stable in crashes as those models supplied to first world countries.
The Yaris is one of the cars sold here that received a lower rating than the models sold in Europe. Technical Director of NCAP, Alejandro Furas.
I would say the South African cars, at least the ones we have tested, most of the cars in the fleets that are looking like the European ones, in most of the cases, in vast majority, they are offering less safety than in Europe.
Interestingly, in the frontal offset crash test, Euro NCAP rated the protection provided by the Corolla Cross to the driver as weak, but the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety in the USA rated the protection as good and gave it a top safety pick plus rating for 2022. These vehicles are built on the same platform, Toyota's new Global Architecture C, and are produced by a company that prides themselves on having the best standardized operating procedures. But yet the Corolla Cross for the US markets provides better protection for its occupants than the European and Australasian vehicles. What does this mean for third world countries? Global NCAP and Latin NSCAP have done numerous tests where they highlighted the differences in structural integrity and lack of safety features of vehicles supplied to third world countries. Many of the safety features offered as standard in first world countries are simply not offered or are offered as optional extras in third world countries.
So here we have the Mexican version of the Hyundai, least expensive version of a sedan that you can buy there. But unfortunately in the crash test you can see that the body shell has really crumpled extremely badly with the forces of the crash. The door area has collapsed, the A-pillar is bent, the steering wheel has moved back, and with just 2 airbags the level of protection in the occupant zone is really rather poor, with a high risk of fatal or serious injury. The contrast with this version, which is an American Hyundai, the body shell has really performed well. There are 6 airbags. You can see even the windscreen is more or less intact.
The level of crash safety protection offered by the Corolla Cross depends on the trim level and the included active and passive safety features. Safety ratings do not extend to variants that have different body styles, engine configurations, driven wheels, or occupant restraint systems, nor do they apply to vehicles across regions. This is one of the reasons that new car assessment programs are region-specific. Let's compare the Corolla Cross for the Australasian market, as tested by the Regional Australasian New Car Assessment Program ANCAP, with the Corolla Cross for the South African market. Global NCAP rates the crash safety of vehicles for the African continent, but no such assessment has yet taken place for the South African Corolla Cross. I would assume, until the contrary is proven by crash tests undertaken by Global New Car Assessment Program, that the body shell of the Corolla Cross for the African market is unstable. This assumption is based on an abundance of caution, and because previous Global New Car Assessment Program tests have shown that the body shells of vehicles sold in Africa are not as stable as those in first world countries. The impact of a crash is likely to be more significant than the results obtained by ANCAP. So, areas that showed marginal protection are likely to be worse. The level of protection offered to the driver is probably either weak or poor. This is, of course, not science, but how I would adapt the results in the absence of a global NCAP report. Let's look at the passive safety features that are provided as standard in the Corolla Cross for the Australian and South African markets. Passive safety features come into play to protect occupants as the accident occurs. The differences in the passive safety features that are provided as standard in Australia are significant. Curtain airbags are highly effective during dangerous crashes. Research suggests that up to 45% of brain injuries and deaths can be prevented. In combination with side torso airbags, they reduce the incidence of severe head and upper body injury and death in side impact collisions by 60%. Because they remain inflated, they keep occupants inside the vehicle during a rollover. Center airbag. These are simply not available in South Africa, and their effectiveness depends on a number of factors. Rear seat pretensioners. These are not offered as standard and might not be available as an option either in South Africa.
Pretensioners automatically retract the seat belt and secure the occupant instantly during severe deceleration, such as that caused by a frontal collision. The aim is to control occupant movement within the cabin space while ensuring that the belts are comfortable in everyday use. To avoid injury to the occupant by the seatbelts themselves, force limiter systems are used. Force limiters come into play when seatbelt pressures applied to the occupant reach a predetermined level. At that point, the limiter allows the belt to extend to help reduce the impact on the occupant's chest.
So for rear occupants in the baseline versions, there are no curtain airbags and pretension rear seat belts are not offered throughout the range. The crash test results for rear occupants in South Africa, especially in the baseline versions, are likely to be worse given the absence of curtain airbags and pretensioners. And who usually sits in the rear seats? In the USA, different safety ratings apply to the 2023 and 2024 Corolla Cross, although both are considered top safety picks. The 2022 Cross was rated a top safety pick plus. However, changing the manner in which the crash tests were conducted on a 2023 Corolla Cross resulted in an updated moderate overlap front test, which showed, based on the kinematics, that the rear passenger restraints only offered marginal protection to the dummy on the rear seat. In the 22nd of February 2024 statement, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety explains the reasons for the updated moderate overlap crash test as follows. Open quotes. IIHS launched the updated moderate overlap front test in 2022 after research showed that in newer vehicles, the risk of a fatal injury is now higher for belted occupants in the second row than for those in front. This is not because the second row has become less safe. Rather, the front seat has become safer because of improved airbags and advanced seat belts that are rarely available in the back. Even with these developments, the back seat remains the safest place for children who can be injured by an inflating front airbag, and the rating does not apply to children secured properly in child safety seats. In the updated test, a dummy the size of a small woman or 12-year-old child is positioned in the second row behind the driver dummy. Close quotes. I would also consider the features available in the model I am considering to buy and compare those with the vehicle that was crash tested. For example, if my model does not have curtain or center airbags, then the results of crash tests of vehicles with those airbags do not apply to me. I'll assume that for my model, the results for that crash would be poor. Now let's consider the active safety features, the features that help to prevent an accident and minimize its impact. The Australian Corolla Cross comes with much more active safety systems as standard than the South African Corolla Cross. Even the top-of-the-range South African Corolla Cross seems to be a stripped-down version of the Australian Corolla Cross. At a time when manufacturers are reducing items in the footwell area, Toyota bucked the trend and added a foot pedal handbrake. Perhaps they found some long-lost inventory and decided to work it into the Corolla Cross. This could also explain the dated rear cabin light. I would definitely want as many passive safety features as possible: a stable body shell, front, side, center, and curtain airbags. I'm not a fan of head injuries or wanting to fall out of the vehicle if it were to roll over. I'll select the active features according to the type of driving that I do, which is mostly urban. So AEB Urban and Rear Cross Traffic Alert would be very useful. These are the safety features I would choose. It's a pity that in Africa, safety features are optional, while they are standard in many first world countries.